In the sweltering heat of the Persian Gulf, where the azure waters met the jagged coastlines of power and peril, the USS Theodore Roosevelt cut through the waves like a steel behemoth on a mission. It was the heart of Carrier Strike Group 9, a formidable armada that included the mighty Nimitz-class supercarrier itself, flanked by 2 guided missile cruisers, 2 destroyers, and a silent submarine lurking beneath the surface. Together, they boasted over 95 aircraft, FA-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers, and E-2 Hawkeyes, ready to dominate the skies. This was no ordinary transit. It was a passage through the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical choke point for oil, a narrow ribbon of sea that funneled 1/5 of global petroleum trade. On one side lay the vast Arabian Peninsula. On the other, the rugged shores of Iran, dotted with hidden missile batteries, radar installations, and command bunkers. Tension simmered like the desert sun, for this strait had long been a flashpoint in the geopolitical chess game between superpowers. Captain Elena Ramirez stood on the bridge of the Roosevelt, her eyes scanning the horizon through high-powered binoculars. A veteran of multiple deployments, she knew the risks all too well. Intelligence briefings had whispered of Iranian unrest, heightened military exercises, encrypted communications buzzing like angry hornets. But today felt different. The air was thick with unspoken warnings. Below decks, the crew of 5,000 sailors and aviators went about their duties with practiced efficiency. Pilots in ready rooms reviewing flight plans, engineers monitoring the nuclear reactors that propelled this floating city at 30 knots, and radar operators glued to their screens. It started with a blip. In the Combat Information Center, buried deep within the carrier's armored hull, Petty Officer Jamal Thompson stared at his console. The AN Spy-1 radar, part of the Aegis combat system, painted a picture of the sky. "Captain, we have anomalous activity on the Iranian coast. Satellites and reconnaissance drones had already flagged unusual movements, trucks mobilizing, silos opening like predatory eyes." The Iranians, it seemed, were not bluffing this time. U.S. intelligence had intercepted chatter about a demonstration of resolve, but no one believed it would escalate to this. The warning came too late, or perhaps it was ignored in the fog of diplomacy. At precisely 0800 hours, the order rippled through Iranian command launch. From fortified positions along the Bandar Abbas coastline, 32 C-802 anti-ship missiles, sleek radar-guided predators capable of Mach 0.9 speeds, erupted into the sky. These were no relics. Upgraded with Chinese technology, they skimmed the waves at low altitude to evade detection, their warheads packed with enough high explosives to cripple a warship. The salvo was a saturation attack, designed to overwhelm defenses by sheer numbers. From launch to impact, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's all the time the American sailors had to turn potential catastrophe into triumph. Alarms blared across the strike group. Missile launch detected. Inbound tracks, bearing 045 degrees, 120 kilometers out. This is not a drill. Battle stations. Hearts pounded as the crew snapped into action. The Aegis system, a marvel of integrated warfare, sprang to life. Within 12 seconds of launch, the SPY-1 radar locked onto the threats, feeding data to the command consoles. The cruisers and destroyers, positioned as shields around the carrier, readied their arsenals. First line of defense. The long-range interceptors. SM-6 missiles, dual-purpose weapons with active radar homing, leaped from vertical launch systems aboard the USS Lake Champlain and USS Bunker Hill. These $4 million Guardians could engage targets up to 240 kilometers away, but here they struck at 90 kilometers, their fragmentation warheads detonating in precise bursts. One by one, Iranian missiles vanished from the radar scopes, 10 down, then 15. The sky lit up with fireballs, debris raining into the Gulf like defeated stars. But the swarm pressed on, relentless. As the distance closed to 35 kilometers, the second layer activated. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, or ESSM. Quad-packed in launchers, these agile defenders twisted through the air, their semi-active seekers guided by shipboard illuminators. Explosions echoed across the water, the acrid smell of cordite wafting even to the carrier's flight deck. Crew members in anti-flash gear watched from portholes, their faces illuminated by the distant blasts. 22 intercepted. Sweat beaded on foreheads in the CIC. The math was unforgiving. 10 missiles remained, hurtling at 600 miles per hour. Now, the final bulwark close-in weapon systems. At 20 kilometers, the Phalanx CIWS, affectionately called R2D2 for its dome shape, unleashed hell. These automated Gatling guns, firing 4,500 tungsten rounds per minute, created a wall of lead. Guided by radar and infrared, they shredded incoming threats with surgical precision. 9 more missiles disintegrated in mid-air, their fragments scattering like confetti. But one persisted, a lone C-802, evading by sheer luck or, maybe a flaw in the pattern. The carrier's deck shuddered as the last missile closed to 650 meters. Time. It just slowed. Captain Ramirez gripped the rail, whispering a silent prayer. The phalanx on the Roosevelt's stern pivoted, its barrels spinning to a blur. A torrent of 20mm rounds erupted, tracing a fiery arc. Impact. The missile exploded in a spectacular bloom, its wreckage splashing harmlessly into the sea. Cheers erupted in the CIC, all threats neutralized. The strike group had held the line, unscathed. What could have been a watery grave for thousands was now a testament to American engineering and training. But victory, well, it demanded retribution. The U.S. response was swift and overwhelming, a doctrine of disproportionate force to deter future aggression. From the carrier's deck, FA-18s scrambled, laden with precision-guided munitions. Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from the destroyers, arcing low over the horizon to strike Iranian targets. In a barrage of 327 weapons, missiles, bombs, and drones, the Americans dismantled the threat. 17 military bases crumbled under JDAM impacts, their runways pockmarked and hangars aflame. 7 missile batteries vanished in plumes of smoke, their launchers twisted metal. 9 radar stations went dark, blinding Iran's coastal eyes. 5 command bunkers, buried deep in mountains, were penetrated by bunker busters, collapsing in seismic rumbles. The toll was grim. Iranian casualties estimated at 1,476. Soldiers, technicians, officers caught in the crossfire. Infrastructure damage tallied $2.3 billion, a crippling blow to an already strained economy. Fires raged along the coast, visible from space, as emergency responders scrambled in vain. The strait, for hours, was a no-go zone, oil tankers diverting amid the chaos. Yet the Roosevelt pressed on, its hull pristine, aircraft recovering in orderly fashion. The group exited the strait into the open Arabian Sea, mission intact. This clash, born of hypothesis, underscored a brutal truth. Attacking a U.S. carrier strike group is akin to suicide. The layered defenses, Aegis, SM-2, SM-6, ESSMs, Phalanx, form an impenetrable shield, backed by intelligent superiority and rapid escalation protocols. Iran's gamble in this simulation ignited a firestorm that could engulf the region, drawing in allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia, potentially spiraling into broader conflict. Oil prices would spike, markets tremble, and diplomatic channels burn. Yet, questions linger. Was this scenario realistic? Critics decry it as propaganda, blending fact with fiction in a Hollywood script. The video's creators insist it's educational, drawn from open-source naval doctrine. No classified secrets spilled. In a world of drones, hypersonics, and cyber warfare, the balance might shift. But for now, in the shadow of the strait, the carrier reigns supreme, a symbol of power projection that keeps adversaries at bay. As the sun set over the Gulf, Captain Ramirez reflected on the what-if. Her ship, a $13 billion fortress, had stared down doom and emerged victorious. But in the real world, where lines blur between bluff and battle, one miscalculation could turn simulation into slaughter. The Strait of Hormuz remains a powder keg, waiting for the next spark.